I'm going to talk about a very serious issue, but it's also quite a considerably different one from the topics which I've usually covered here in this channel. Pensions, savings, saving for the future. The future. What does the future hold financially, income-wise? Do you know something? Now that I've turned 40, you know, there's the old saying, life begins at 40. You kind of enter a kind of second life. And I've experienced what I can only describe as a very frightening epiphany, recognizing that, time is running out. I mean, my youth is spent and gone, my youth is history. Notionally, I've been in the workplace now for nearly a quarter century. And the things which I'm going to say in this video, they only really apply here in the United Kingdom, and I fear that here in Scotland they might not apply for much longer, depending whether there's going to be another independence referendum, but that's a worry for another video, by the way.
Okay, so time is running out. You've been in the workplace for 25 odd years, and what do you have to show for it, man? You've got virtually nothing to show for it. You should be in a career. I mean, you know this, but you should be in a career. You should be established by now. But you're not. You're going to find out where he is later on in this video. But this is the thing. This is why I make these videos, because I want to show you guys what happens if you don't take life seriously. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you have to focus and take life seriously when you're in your 20s. Otherwise, you're going to suffer in your 30s and 40s, 50s and beyond. Now's the time to make things happen. Now's the time to set yourself up to lay the foundation for the future. We have to do it. We all have to go through it. We all have to go through the struggle and strive to get the reward down the line. If you refuse to do that, well, you're going to see later on in this video.
No, I have to say, in recent weeks, I've been sitting down and I've been building spreadsheets and I've been thoroughly going through my finances, going through my bank statements with a very fine tooth comb, and I'm gradually coming to the realization that my freelance proofreading days are numbered. I think that line of work is drawing to a close. It's really just a hustle. It's a side thing. It's a hobby almost.
So he's finally admitting the freelance proofreading business is, is pretty much finished. And I agree. I mean, there's nothing to really debate about that. I mean, the freelance proofreading business, it was never really making you any money. You did it because you had nothing else, or you thought you had nothing else. You didn't believe you could do anything else. You believed it was an easy way to make, some small change. But at the end of the day, I mean, I always say stick to your bread and butter. I say stick your bread and butter, stick to the things that you're used to and that you're good at. But if your bread and butter, if what you're good at is not lucrative, then you'll have to learn something else. You have to get rid of that mindset now of making just a few, a little bit of change here and there. No, we have to start looking at making real income. You're way too old to be thinking about making a bit of change here and there. You're way too old for that. To start now thinking about in some real income. Because if you don't, well, you know what the result's going to be. You say it later on in this video.
Before you say anything, let me just drop in some good news. I've taken on a part-time job. I'm actually back in a proper job. It's not an exuberant job or professional. I'm working as a cleaner. It's basically a weekend job just now. I've signed up to work with.
You hear that? You hear that? That he's working as a cleaner. He's a 40-year-old man with a graduate degree, and he's had to lower himself to work as a cleaner. Lower himself to work as a cleaner, and this is what happens. We can blame the job market, we can blame this, we can blame that, but at the end of the day, let's be honest here. If you end up as a cleaner, you went wrong. You went drastically wrong in the choices and decisions you've made in your own life. I mean, and I don't want you guys watching to end up like this. I don't want you guys watching it go so low as to become a cleaner. But one of the problems with St. Andrean is he sets such low expectations for himself. Like what Dan Pena says, you will not exceed your greatest expectation. If you have such a low expectation to begin with, then you're already in trouble. Um, you have to think big, dream big, and aim high. But a lot of people don't seem to understand that. Anyway, let's continue.
You know, I've been unemployed or underemployed on and off over the years, and I know that there's hell to pay. I really
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why people put so much money into their pensions, into their whatever you want to call it, because they realize that there's going to come a time when they're going to be too old to work physically, or they're going to just become unemployable just due to their age. And that's when the suffering really hits the apex. When you start to get to your 60s, that's when it really hits the apex, because you no longer can work, you no longer have any income, and nobody cares about you. You're a useless old man, and you start to get sicknesses, you start to get health problems, and it's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. But it happens. It happens to a lot of people. Setting yourself up well financially for the future is very, very, very important. And like you said, there's hell to pay if you don't do it.
really need to start saving up. I need to bloody start, maxing my hours and really start taking on more and more work. If this agency sends me more work, I'm taking it. Uh,
All right, so he's talking about maxing his hours. Okay, look, when it comes to maxing your hours, I mean, look, I thought you were looking for jobs as many hours as you can anyway. Now you're saying I need to start maxing my hours, but I mean, the reality is that on the job market, you're not valued. And that's the same case with a lot of people, but on the job market, you're not valued. People who are valued on the job market do not have problems getting jobs. One of the main reasons why you've had so many problems finding work is because you're not hungry. Let's be real. You've sat up on here on YouTube and even admitted that you just try and make as much money as you just try and make enough money to pay your parents' rent, and that's it. You've admitted that. You've said that before. You have very low expectations for yourself, and you're not hungry because you know you don't need that job to put a roof over your head. You don't need that job to eat. You know, you're not under any pressure. I mean, who's going to be hungrier? The person who needs the job to eat, the person who needs a job to put a roof over their head, the person who needs a job to put food in their kid's mouth, or you? Who's going to be hungrier? Let's be real here. You're not hungry. The employers can see you're not hungry. They can see it. They can see it that you don't really need the job. If you're an employer, you want somebody who needs the job. Why? Because if they need the job, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep it. If they're in desperate, employers will feed off of the desperation of people. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. You want somebody who needs the job, and you're not portraying that to the people that you need the job badly enough. So that's the thing. That's why you're not getting the results. You've got a guaranteed roof over your head. Of course, you're not super hungry as the other people out there. It's competition. It's psychological at the end of the day. So that's one thing you got to really think about.
not least because, I've been sitting back and doing some sums. In order to qualify for a state pension, for a minimal state pension, the bare minimum, you have to put in basically the equivalent of at least 11 years working full time, earning at least about £10,000 across the year.
Okay, so you said what, 10, 11 years, earning about £10,000 a year? Now, how many years have you got under your belt? Is it zero? You know, because this guy says he's not earning more than £10,000 in a year, so that tells me that he's got 0 years under his belt. So he needs to have 11 years of work just to get a minimal state pension, which is what, 400, 500, 600 a month. The minimal state pension is nothing. That will barely just cover your food costs. I mean, it's the minimal state pension is a joke. That's not enough money. But we're going to get into later on, we're going to get into the real crunching the numbers, because he says he's been crunching the numbers, but I don't know what numbers this guy been crunching. But a minimal state pension, I mean, you're going to have on your current trajectory, you're not even looking at a minimal state pension. You're not even looking at that. And that's nothing.
Equivalent. And, I look back upon the last 24 years of my life and I think, well, actually, I wasted a lot of time at university. And during the time when I was at university, except for when I was working in, temporary jobs, summer jobs, Christmas jobs, I wasn't paying national insurance. I wasn't really paying income tax as such.
Okay, he wasn't paying his NI, he wasn't paying income tax. Would you consider that over these years, would you consider that tax dodging? I mean, it's legal, but would you consider that ethical? Forget about the legalities. Would you consider it ethical? Somebody who's living at home, who earns a minimal salary, okay, or earns nothing, but is capable of working, would you consider that ethical? Would you consider that tax dodging? Because essentially, even though he hasn't paid his national insurance, he's still entitled to access to the public services. I mean, if he gets sick, he can go to the NHS and get treatment, even though he's deliberately hasn't paid, and it is deliberate because at the end of the day, if he really needed a job, he'd have a job. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. This is not a retarded guy. This is not even a dumb guy. But the thing is, like I said, he's not hungry. That's the real truth. He's a doomer. He's defeated. That's the thing. When you become a doomer, when you become defeated, you're not going to get any results. But would you consider that ethical? That's just food for thought. Would you consider that ethical? I don't think it's right that people cannot pay their dues and still get, if they get sick, still get to use the healthcare service free of charge. I don't think that's ethical. But anyway, let's continue.
Now, when I finally earned my STEM degrees, I spent 3 years basically working in a security job and then worked in a job in Paisley. But, the job in Paisley was a 0 hours job. It wasn't wonderfully paid, so I didn't really pay an awful lot of contributions to the government. And, perfectly fair, fair's fair. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and you only get out what you put in. I've been looking into this. To get a full state pension, one has to have worked for at least basically 35 years, earning at least 10.
Let's have a look at this. Yeah, 35 years, okay.
Pounds across the financial year. That's a lot. And I'm just sitting there thinking,
Okay, so he cannot get a full state pension because there's no way he's going to get 35 years of work under his belt. No way. No chance is he going to get 35 years under his belt of work. So he won't qualify for a full state pension. That's a big problem. That's a big problem. Let's listen to his solution.
Something, I really have fallen behind the curve in this one.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to have to absolutely slave my goddamn ass off over the next 20 years. And all I can say is, it's a miracle, thank God. The economy that has emerged from this pandemic is a totally different economy. And of course, I know what some of you are thinking, well, actually...
Look, the economy that's emerged from this pandemic, I already stated it. I already stated it in my video. What's it called? Loser job. What's it called? What's that video called again? Something for losers. Let me just check my channel. Let me check my channel quickly. Some of you guys may even remember what the name of that video was. But I made that video. It's called Glamorization of Losers. Yeah, that's the one. Glamorization of Losers, right? I made that video and I was talking about how basically on social media is being glamorized. And I mentioned the Milad Subway guy and people working in McDonald's are blowing up on TikTok and they're trying to glamorize these jobs. And after I made that video, actually, McDonald's announced that they're going to open 60 new stores uh, in this country over the next, I don't know how long, but they announced that. And now you have another fast food restaurant which has re-emerged in this country, Wendy's. Okay, Wendy's have started popping up in the UK now, right? They've started popping up, and I think they're gonna open 50 stores or 50 restaurants um, over the next year. So that's what's happening now. Fast food, loser jobs. That's what's available. That's what's coming out of this new. You're not gonna build a career off of this economy that's coming out right now. Telling you that.
Money out of property, really. So there's been times in the last few weeks that I've almost been having panic attacks, thinking, you know, I don't want to turn 60 and find that I'm unemployed, absolutely destitute, basically homeless, and my long estranged siblings basically disown me, saying, well, we worked in full-time jobs.
All right, but that's where you're heading, though. You say you don't want to end up destitute, turning sick, but that's where you're heading. That's exactly where you're heading, man. I mean, I'm telling you the truth that because look at your track record. What's gonna change now? Are you doing anything different? Because you say, "Oh, I'm just gonna apply for jobs." You've been applying for jobs for the past 2 decades. It hasn't helped you. What are you gonna do that's different? What are you gonna do that you're gonna think outside the box? What are you gonna do that's gonna take you outside of your comfort zone? Because at the end of the day, if you just keep doing the same thing that hasn't worked over the 20 years, you're gonna get the same results, man. Look, and that's why I've told you, you're gonna have to explore other options. You're gonna have to explore other potential options to save yourself from the position that you find yourself in. I'm sorry, but that's the harsh truth and the reality of the situation. I can make some suggestions for you. I would say to people, you've got a bachelor's degree, go get your TEFL. Go get your TEFL and look at possible opportunities. It's difficult now with the pandemic to go to other countries and I don't know about the teaching English online. I would say go look at it. Go look at the TEFL opportunities because you're qualified. You've got a what master's degree. That's valuable in other countries because yet in this country they don't care if you got a master's degree. But in other countries, right, having a master's degree from a Western university is actually perceived as something that's valuable. So there are potentially opportunities there. I'm a big advocate of online business because online business is what will lead me to living a great life overseas when I do eventually leave this country. And you've dabbled in online business. I honestly don't know why you stopped selling on eBay. Um, you said you sold on eBay before you made some money. I don't know how many years ago that was, but eBay is still lucrative. There's a lot of people making money on eBay and even Amazon. There's people making 6 grand, sorry, 6 figures selling used books. There is real money to be made out there. I mean, but this is the thing. You're not willing to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, you sold on eBay before and you just gave up. I don't know why you gave up. Maybe it wasn't working, but you're a quitter, man. You're a quitter. You can't just quit. You can't just quit and sit there and just sit on your ass and think things are going to change. Even if you were to get a full-time job right now, okay, how long is that gonna last? And can you rely? You don't have a career, man. Even if you have a career, we're heading to economic depression, man. The only people that are safe are people in government jobs. I'm not even safe, you know. As an online business owner, I'm probably gonna lose a large chunk of my income in this economic depression. I'm ready for that. That's a large reason why I want to get out of this country to lower my, to protect myself from having to pay such a high cost of living. But this is the thing. I mean, a lot of us are in trouble, but you're in massive, massive trouble because you don't have the savings, you don't even have the skills. I'd say look into the online, the options overseas as well, and think about going back to selling on eBay if that's what you should do. I don't know why you quit on the first place, but if you made money on eBay before, you could make more. You can definitely make more. But you're gonna have to do something different other than just applying for jobs, man, because where's that gotten you? Where's that gotten you thus far? It's got you nowhere. And you're not more valuable on the job market. You're no more valuable on the job market than you've been, uh, over the past few years anyway. So what's really gonna change? Not much is gonna change.
all our life. Starting to think about the future. Really, I'm starting to get concerned about this because the fact of the matter is, I mean, if I want to, let's say, if I just want to save up about £100,000 for when I turn 60, because basically, by the time you turn 60, if you're not in a job, no one's going to hire you. Nobody's going to.
All right, listen, man, you're gonna have to work beyond 60. You're gonna have to. You don't have a choice to say, "Oh, when I turn 60, no one's gonna hire me." You see, that's already a self-defeatism mindset, bro. There are people working over 60. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like, it is harder to get a job over 60, but you're gonna have to. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm just gonna. Retirement age is over 60 anyway. What's retirement age now? 67, 68? I don't know. It's over 60, well over 60. You're gonna have to work over 60, man. You ain't got that fat stack of cash in your pocket that you could just say, yeah, yeah, I don't. No, you have to work over 60. You have to. It's not a choice. So don't dismiss yourself and say, oh, when I'm over 60, I'm not going to be able to find a job. You will have to work.
To hire an unemployed person in their 60s. End of. And even to save up £100,000, I need to be putting away probably at least about £400 every month. And I know what you're saying. Oh, come on, that's nothing. That's easy. I mean, that's like working 11 hours.
Listen, man, £100,000. Okay, you're not going to be able to retire on £100,000. What are you talking about? £100,000, you can't even retire off that in Thailand. You can't even retire off that in Philippines, even Cambodia. £100,000, like what are these sums you've been calculating? Who told you that you can retire on £100,000? If you want to retire at 60, even as a single man, as a frugal single man just as a frugal single man, you're gonna need what? Like, it depends how long you live, but you're gonna need. I don't want to throw numbers out there, but you know, at least in the 300, 400, 300 is probably even low. Probably in the 400 to 600,000 range. Maybe you could push it a bit lower because you're a single frugal man, but over 300,000 for sure. You look at average life expectancy being 80, over 300,000 for sure, man. Like £100,000 is not gonna do anything. What planet are you living on? Like, and that's the thing. Some of you guys on YouTube, you just say the most ridiculous things. How can you retire on £100,000? That won't even last you 10 years. Even if you had £100,000, right? And the minimum state pension, even £100,000 and the minimum state pension, that's not gonna last you. That will not last you even 10 years, man. So how are you gonna retire at 60 with £100,000? See, some of the stuff you guys say, it just makes no sense whatsoever. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot retire on £100,000. You have to understand that. You cannot retire on £100,000. To get that through your head, get that 100,000 is again is back to the incredibly low standards that he has. He has such low standards that he he sets the bar so low so he can make it, but that's not reality. That's not reality. You have to live in the real world. You can't create your fantasy world and think that it's going to work for you. No, it's not.
hours a week on the minimum wage. Well, of course, I pay my parents' rent, perfectly fair. There's personal costs, I guess not very much. I personally need to be, I need to be earning at least £1,000 a month on average, non-stop, in today's money, basically. Um, but I need to keep that up month after.
This is ridiculous. I mean, £1,000 a month. You're saying you need to earn £1,000 a month. That's well below minimum wage. What the hell is that going to do for you? Like, I don't understand what this, like, how he comes up with these numbers. £1,000 a month is peanuts. How are you gonna retire at 60 earning £1,000 a month? I mean, this is nonsensical, man. Like, this is a problem with a lot of you guys. You don't understand money. You just don't. You don't understand the cost of living. You'd expect a 40-year-old man to understand the cost of living, but him and that other guy from Maidstone, right? Who you guys know what I'm talking about, they don't understand the cost of living. These are older guys. These are not teenagers. This is a problem. But this is a problem we have in society today with a lot of guys. They don't understand the cost of living. £1,000 a month is well below minimum wage. That's not going to do anything for you. Let me repeat that. That's not going to do anything for you. Why do you set such low standards? The lowest standards I've ever seen in my life from an individual. £1,000 a month ain't doing jack for you. You're gonna have to make more than that. Now, £1,000 a month, you're scraping by in, uh, you know, you're scraping by in Thailand, you're scraping by in the Philippines, you're scraping by in other countries around the world. But the thing is, you're not gonna have enough money to put away for your retirement, though. Even if you're living in like Cambodia, you're gonna need to make, a bit more than that so that you can put money away from your retirement. You're talking about living in Scotland on £1,000 a month? Like, come on now.
The month, all throughout the year, over the next 20 years, just to just to accrue £100,000. And I know what you're saying. Don't put money in the bank. There's no interest in the banks. You're just pouring money away. You're right, because I hope to reach the point where I can actually diversify and begin to start investing in very reliable tradable assets like gold and silver coins, things like that. Um,
Okay, let's touch on that gold and silver. I'm all for gold and silver, but you don't have enough money to make for it to make a difference. You're gonna need to put like hundreds of thousands realistically into gold and silver, if not tens of thousands, for it to really make a difference. What, you're gonna put 5 grand in gold and silver? Like, that's not gonna really make any difference. Like, the difference is so negligible, it's not even worth talking about. Like, that's not something that you need to be thinking about right now. You need to be thinking about purely and solely generating income. That's it. That's it. Don't worry about gold. Don't worry about silver. All that stuff comes later. Focus on what the main objective is. How can I generate the income? That's it.
I mean, I've already made up my mind. I think I've said this already. I'm never ever going to get married. I'm never ever going to take out a mortgage. In fact, I'm never even going to take out a loan, and I'm never going to buy a car because that's just money down the drain. Um,
Okay, you say you'll never buy a car, but you may need a car one day. You may need a car one day for work or something else. I mean, if you don't need one, then don't have one. But if you need one, you have to be open to be getting one as well. You have to be open-minded. You have to be open-minded. Like I said, you have to get out of your comfort zone because having this idea, "Oh, I'll never do this, I'll never do that." The correct idea is I'll do whatever it takes. That's the correct idea. If you don't want to suffer a harsh end to your life, you'll have to do whatever it takes.
and the way I see it, in the next 20 years, one after another, my parents are going to die, and most likely, at least one of them is going to end up in a care home, which means they're going to have to flog the place, which means I'm going to have to leave, and I'll basically be homeless. And all three of my siblings who are just working away in their jobs, raising their families, they'll just turn around and say, "Nah, you can get lost." And I
I'm glad that he has admitted this because a lot of these guys don't want to admit. They don't want to admit that their parents will pass away. He's admitted that. He's admitted that his parents are, we all have a lifespan and his parents are coming towards their final years, right? He knows that if his parents end up in a care home, they're gonna sell the place and he's gonna have nowhere to live. Okay? And let me tell you another thing. In an economic depression, the death rates go up. And yes, we are heading into an economic depression. I don't care what anyone says. The death rates go up in the economic depression. So many of us may well lose our relatives in the economic depression. So we need to act and we need to act now and make things happen. Because you realize where you're heading, you know? Unlike some of these YouTubers who don't even want to touch on it. They just run away. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about the future that awaits them. But I'm happy that at least you are addressing the reality that you will, okay, end up in that position if you don't sort yourself out financially right now. Because that's important.
but I never ever ever want to end up in a situation where I'm basically broke, and the parents are either incapacitated or dead, and then that's me stranded. So I'm really starting to worry about the future
Mm-hmm.
because in 10 years' time I'll be 50.
Yep.
I'll be an old man, a very old man, and in 20 years' time, if I'm still around, I'll be completely unemployable.
So, that's where you're heading. That's where you're heading. You talk about being destitute, and unfortunately, on the path that you're on, that's where you're heading. You're heading, that's what you're looking at. Okay? That's what you're looking at. But I can give you some light at the end of the tunnel. It is doable. It is doable to get yourself out of the position that you find yourself in. But it's gonna take you being willing to do anything. You're gonna have to get out of this comfort zone. You're gonna have to get out of this mentality. Think outside the box, and I've given you some options. Look at them. Look at the options that are available to you. You got a bit of savings, you may have to risk your savings. I don't know how much savings you got, but you may have to risk your savings, invest in yourself. Because at the end of the day, fortune favors the brave, man. I live by that saying. That's a true saying. Yeah, you can't sit there and be a coward and expect to get the reward at the end. Cowards ain't getting no reward. Cowards will be left with nothing. But the brave people, the people who are willing to make the sacrifices, they will get the reward at the end. And that's what I want for all you guys. Ultimately, I'm here to help you guys and prevent your suffering. I don't want you guys who support my channel to suffer. I don't want you guys to suffer because it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that, but it will be like that if you don't change. It's Unreal Man here, the truth of madness. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you aren't already, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you're informed every time I upload a new video.